Kia ora Year 11 and 12. This is question 1E from last year's algebra paper, and it's a really nice word problem. So if you're in my class this year, it fits in really well with what we're doing at the moment. Let's have a look at it. So it's a classic maths problem. It's a rectangular box that has no lid, and we're given some information, and as soon as you see a question like this in level 2, you should be thinking, I reckon this is going to turn into a quadratic equation, and it is. So when we get down to the quadratic in this case, you could solve it using factorization in this case, or the quadratic formula, but I'm going to do it using completing the square, just to give you even more practice at that technique, because I know how much you will love it. So let's start off by having a look carefully at the question. Well, we've got a nice diagram done for us already, so that's a good start. We're told the length of the base is 60 centimeters, so that's this, and this height is 1/4 of the sum of its width and length. So we're going to have to turn that into a variable that links w and this 60 here. Then we're told the total area of the base and the four sides is 7,400 centimeters squared. Find the height of the box. So let's start out by slowly. We've already been given variable letters to use, so we'll start by writing down an expression for the height. Well, the height is 1/4 of the sum of the width, which is w, and the length. And the length we know is 60. So that's where we're going to start. Now, we're given an expression for area that we're going to turn into an equation. The total area of the base and the four sides is made up of 5 bits. So the area is equal to the base plus 2 lots of these bits here that I'm colouring in now. So they are the width times the height, and then there are going to be 2 lots of this face here. So it's going to be 2 lots of 60 times h. So what we need to do is to eliminate w or h, and in this case we've already written h in terms of w. So we're going to take this equation and replace the h in here. And we know what the base area is. The base area underneath is going to be 60 times the width. So you just need to be able to visualize that fifth side of the box. There's no lid, so that's why it's only 5 sides. So we'll write that out one more time more neatly. So we've got 60w plus 2wh plus 120h. And now we substitute. So we get 60w plus 2w times 1/4 w plus 60 in brackets plus 120 times 1/4 times w plus 60. So that's going to clean up quite easily. We get 60w plus w on 2 and so on. The next step is that we can see the quadratic forming, so we're going to expand everything out. You could be smart and take out a common factor here, but I'm going to do this the easiest, clunkiest way. So we get w squared over 2 plus 30w plus another 30w plus 1800. So this is my expression for area. W squared on 2 plus 120w plus 1800. And we know that that equals 7,400 or 7,400 centimeters squared. So the equation that we have to solve is this one, and that's going to give me the width of the box, and then coming back up here we need to end up with the height. So we'll take my W answer and substitute it into here. And while we're at it, we might as well check that we've got the right answer. Okay, so going very slowly, so turn off the sound and skip through a wee bit if this is a little bit too slow for you. That's my starting point. We know to solve a quadratic, we like to start off by having the left-hand side equal to 0. So subtracting 7,400 gives me minus 5,600. And now I'm going to multiply both sides through by 2 to make life easier. I don't really like this divided by 2 here. So we get w squared plus 240w minus, what do we have here? 11,200 is equal to 0. So this is my quadratic. I know some of you are probably going to chuck that into your calculator. I can't really stop you doing that, but I am going to do it with completing the square to give you a bit more practice at that. So we have several methods to solve this, right? We can factorize, and this one will factorize, or we can use the quadratic formula, or we can use completing the square. Because this comes up all the time in excellence questions and applications, it's the one that I'm going to practice here. So, to complete the square, I take the first two terms and go like this. Oops, wrong pen. So w plus 120 squared minus 11,200 minus the 120 squared that I added in by accident, and that equals 0, giving me w plus 120 squared minus 25,600 equals 0. If this isn't making sense, go and watch my video on completing the square. You really have to master that skill, both for the graphing internal and for level 2 algebra. It's really useful. Next, we're going to take square roots of both sides. And the square root of this is a nice round 160. So we have w plus 120 is equal to plus or minus, whoops, yeah, that's right, plus or minus 160. Doing this super slowly. So w is equal to what? Well, it's equal to negative 120 plus 160 or minus 160. So that's equal to negative 280, which makes no sense, or 40. So we've got down to here. We can say something like this. Since w is a width, w must be greater than 0, so w is not equal to negative 280, and w is equal to 40 centimetres. So we're partway there, but the question asked me to find the height. So let's look back at the equation for height. H is equal to a quarter times w plus 60, which is equal to 1/4 of 40 plus 60 is 100. So the height is 25 centimetres. Now we can very easily check that we've got this right. So that's my final answer. And we have, or I wouldn't be putting it into a video, hopefully. We've got the width is 40, the height we're saying is 25, and the length is 60. So we can quickly go back and look at my picture of the open lidded box and just figure out those areas. So the base is going to be, the area is going to be 60 times 40, and there's only one of those because there's no lid, so that's 2400. And then the sides, we've got 2 times this one here, and then 2 times this one here. So it's going to be 2 times 25 times 40 plus 2 times 60 times 25. So this works out to be 1,000, so this is 2,000, and this is 120 times 25, which gives me 3,000, not 300. So they add up to 2400 plus 2000 plus 3000, which gives me 7,400 centimeters squared. So that's what we wanted. Alright, so I think that's a really nice word problem for you to practice on. Lots of little things in there to watch out for. Be careful with things like units. Make sure you can confidently do completing the square. And most of all, just have a look at our initial setup. We're given a nice diagram. If they didn't give us that diagram, you'd need to do one yourself. And the key to the question is this bit here, where we link two variables together so that we can go on and eliminate one of them.